Hello and welcome to another episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. My name is JC Polanco and I'm the President and CEO of the Counsel on Legal Education Opportunity. We're so excited. Again, we're with you from the first annual Spring Bloom right here in Washington, D.C. And we have such an incredible event tonight. We want to thank our supporters, Golson & Stores, Booz Allen Hamilton, and we also want to thank Baker Botts for their incredible support for our first annual Spring Bloom. They truly understand diversity and the importance of diversifying the legal profession. We ask all of you to please go to our website, cleowing.org, sign up for CLEO Connections, and stay informed. We have some great events coming up this year. This is our 55th Emerald anniversary, and it's so exciting to be here in Washington, D.C. Our guest tonight is Mr. Josh Petty, who is an absolute superstar. It is an honor for me to have you here on the CLEO Edge Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
It means a great deal.
Privileged to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Josh, you are a very interesting character. And I encourage all of you that are here tonight, if you haven't heard Josh Petty, Google tonight, and you will also be a fan. Reminds me of a time I had to give a speech on Maximilian, and I Googled Maximilian, and I was blown away. Kind of similar effect I got with Josh tonight. Josh, you have an incredible background, and a lot of our viewers are pre-law students, our law students, our attorneys in practice, and our alumni, and stakeholders in the diversity sphere that care about the legal profession. And so many have different stories as to what interests them in the law. Why did they pursue the law? I'm interested in getting your story, Josh. Tell us a little bit about what interests you in the law, and why did you pursue a law degree?
Well, I think I knew early on I wanted to go to law school. I just wasn't sure how I wanted to enter the legal profession. Very much wanted to be a business person and a lawyer. I didn't see myself working in a big firm. I saw myself as a problem solver and wanted to go in-house, be close to the business, and help the business solve problems.
And you've done it in some very big areas. I mean, professionally, you wanted to do that, but you go out there, you get your law degree, and you just hit the ground running. And I mean, from Accenture to Booz Allen Hamilton, I mean, you've gone to all-star firms and companies to do your thing.
I've been very fortunate. I was very fortunate before law school. People invested in me early on. Got some great work experience while I was in college. I was able to work full-time for 3 of my 4 years in college, and then work through business school and work through law school. And yes, I'm very fortunate to have been able to work for over a dozen years at Accenture, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And now I'm just past 9 years at Booz Allen.
That's phenomenal. One of the things that sometimes we somehow overlook is the importance of those college years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. So tell us, where did you go and while you were there, what are some of the things you worked on as you pursued your degree?
Well, it's timely you ask, because my oldest is in college now, so I feel like I'm reliving my own college experience to some degree. So I went to George Washington University. Full disclosure, I had never been south of New Jersey growing up until I looked for colleges.
Where are you from originally, John?
So I was born in Maine. My parents are New Yorkers. They moved to Maine in the late 60s. And so there's a big connection to New York and New Jersey to see family, but that was about as far south as we ever went. And so in high school, a close friend encouraged me to look in a more urban environment. Came down to Washington and frankly fell in love with the city. Fell in love with the energy, and I liked where I went to college because it was sort of blended into the city. It wasn't a suburban campus. It was hard to distinguish between the campus of GW and the city, and that was exactly what I needed at that point in my life. And the single best thing that happened to me in college was that's where I met my wife. So I have to start there. But the school really encouraged me to get practical experience. I was nervous that I would graduate from college with a degree that wouldn't give me, an anchor to my first job. But I really desperately wanted to have something useful in my toolbox. Didn't have a big Rolodex to rely upon. And so chose to be a finance major and got some hands-on experience working, with a large government contractor at the time. In fact, I took a year off from college to work and was still able to finish on time because of the flexibility that George Washington allowed. The university understands that not everybody's on the same 4-year track, and I finished with my class, but I finished not only on time, but also with really credible work experience, which really helped me and propelled me in the future.
Now, that work experience that you got while going to college, you mentioned it helped propel you in the future. A lot of our students and alumni know what that's like to have to work and go to school at the same time. And you thrived under that. I hear that often of how incredible working at the same time was. The reason I smile when you said that is I was a New York City public school teacher while going to law school at night and finishing a law degree and MBA. So I it's one of those things that if you've done it, it's an incredible experience.
Absolutely, and if I can figure out that somebody did it on the resume, I'm going to give them serious consideration. The ability to juggle that much simultaneously is extraordinary. Just as I would prioritize a college athlete, given the fact that is a full-time job, right, as well as going to school. If someone's working and they're juggling the demands of education, not just going to class, but learning is hard. And giving it the time and the attention, being able to manage all of that simultaneously, that tells me someone has grit. They're capable of handling multiple demands simultaneously. And I would give that person serious consideration because I know what they're made of to be able to do that.
And I see it and I hear about it all the time. So interesting you share that story with us. Now, as you go on to law school, did you go to law school directly? How did that work out for you?
I went to, so after undergrad, I got my master's in international business from Johns Hopkins. Because I was a finance major undergrad, it was actually a very sort of smooth transition to that program. And then I worked for a couple more years before I went to law school, and I went to law school at night while working full time.
You did? Wasn't that exciting?
Exciting is one way to describe it. Exhausting is another way to describe it. I was traveling a lot for business, and I was squeezing in my classes and learning how to study in every environment I was in, planes, trains. It was quite a stretch, but I had a great fortune to be surrounded by people who were encouraging me to do that, and who were, you need to have good infrastructure, and I certainly didn't have anybody detracting from me. I had people who really had my back and were helping me do that.
And it's so interesting how you credit the experience of ruling that out with some of the successes that you have today. It's so interesting. Tell us about your roles in business, because these are not regular roles. I can see how juggling all of those different things propelled you to be the business attorney that you end up becoming.
I think that's right. I mean, I would encourage young professionals and students to really make sure that they don't focus too narrowly. They really understand the broader context. Being a lawyer and not understanding business, if you're a business lawyer, I think is a problem. And so I think really understanding how business operates, how companies make money, how they manage people, what their sort of core requirements are is essential to being an effective lawyer. It's seldom do you get the right question that business leaders have. They have an interpretation of what they need, and they need to have clarification on what question they really need to have an answer to. But first, they got to figure out the right question to ask. Being a business person, I think, helps me understand that in parallel with being a lawyer.
Now, what's so interesting about what you're saying is I'm thinking about the dramatic changes in the business climate at large around the country since you entered law school and since you first decided that you wanted to be this business person with a law degree. You've seen some incredible changes, right? From technology to diversity, right, in the workplace. How do you see that trajectory going? I mean, because when we think about technology, it's almost like the Wizard of Oz. I know that's how I see it. I hear technology, I see big words, I'm always so concerned. I'm not a technology guy. But you're at the forefront of, and you're actually working there, and you're seeing the transformation happen. What are some of the things that concern you as we continue to evolve in this area?
Well, first of all, the pace right now. I mean, information overload is real. I remember my first job. I didn't have email. Right? We waited for faxes. Things came in slowly, methodically. Communications were more formal. They were well thought out. Today, you have a series of what I'll refer to as excited utterances in emails and text messages, in Teams communications. So there's just such an amount of information coming at people so quickly. We can't keep up with the volume we have. But people are expecting us to read the emails we get and to carefully, internalize them and action them. there's a very hard balance there. But if I just sat and responded just to the emails I got, I wouldn't have enough time in the day just for that, let alone the meetings we're all in, let alone trying to prepare for the next presentation or trying to actually think through a hard problem. So it's an overwhelming task, and that's not limited to the legal profession. The ability to get instant access to almost any information you need today is extraordinary. It also reminds us that what we learned perhaps 25, 35 years ago in school, where it was about rote memorization, doesn't equip us well, because that information is available to us today. It's how do you internalize it? How do you interpret the information? How do you action it? How do you connect disparate points? How do you analyze it? I also think that sometimes we lose sight of the basics of how do we serve as an effective communicator when there's just so much information coming at us. It causes us to want to have way too much to communicate all quickly, and that's sometimes a problem. The developments in technology are both exciting and terrifying simultaneously. I'm more of an optimist, so I'm excited about what it brings, and I'm excited about what we're doing, as a profession to try and increase diversity within the profession. That's certainly something that's changed dramatically in my career. How so, Josh? Well, it's not hard to look from a distance and see that we have a much more diverse population in the profession. We have, importantly, and probably equally importantly, and much more diversity of thought. It's not all sort of a monolith of what I used to see.
And I would assume you think that's a great thing, because I sure do.
Absolutely. And just the fact that I took a non-traditional route to where I got, it's another example of where I think the profession is advancing. When I was in law school, the assumption was you went and worked for a big firm, or you went to the government. There was no discussion about going in-house. And I was glad that I was able to do it from the start. And I hope that many more people can do it. I've been able to hire folks directly out of school. I've hired people who've had just a couple years of experience. And I hope to do that, a lot more of that.
It's a great thing you mentioned, because, throughout the country, one of the things that we're seeing at CLEO is that there is a pushback against diversity programs, the ideas of diversifying the legal profession. And we're seeing that constantly. And one of the things that the CLEO Edge podcast tries to do is try to explain why diversity matters and why it's important, and why some people who are diversity averse should be interested in diversity from an opportunity perspective. And I know you're at the forefront of this. You're involved in so many incredible organizations nationally, including the Thurgood Marshall Fund that you're part of. And thank you for that. Such an important group. Can you tell our viewers why diversity should matter and why diversity is important?
Well, it depends how you look at it, but as a shareholder, you should be seeking a diverse organization, right? There's no question that more diverse organizations thrive. There's a business imperative, right? There's also an equity and fairness to it. It's the right thing to do. I focus on diversity of thought. I learn from people who have different backgrounds, different education, grew up in different locations. None of us have a monopoly on all the right answers. And it's that collaboration with diverse perspectives that ultimately drives, I think, the best outcomes. The ability to communicate the most effectively with various stakeholders, whether it's customers, internal, employees. But it is an absolute business imperative, and it's the right thing to do.
Josh, you mentioned this issue of diversity of thought. Mm-hmm. That matters a great deal. How important it is to get different ideas. And to come up with the right answer by listening to different views. How do you incorporate that where you are now with Booz Allen?
I think there's a number of things we're doing that really are designed to make that happen in the real world. We endeavor to have a diverse slate of candidates for all new positions, new postings. We want to make sure we have a diverse slate of candidates for high visibility opportunities. Obviously going to select the most qualified candidate, but ensuring that we have a diverse slate of candidates is essential to actually accomplishing that. We want to make sure we have diverse representation from our outside counsel. We make diversity a topic on all of our outside counsel relationship meetings. We want to make sure the law firms we're working with have similar values and priorities. We want to make sure that the people who are actually doing the work for us are diverse, and it's not just an individual who's rolled out at a client meeting. We don't want to hear just about a program that doesn't actually truly sort of work. And we make sure that the origination credit for the work with the outside counsels we partner with are going equitably to the right people. Not some client partner who I didn't meet 20 years ago who established the relationship. Within our department, I'm pleased. So we have about 4 dozen lawyers, and I'm pleased that the department is now Mansfield certified as part of the Diversity Labs program. I'm pleased that we are promoting sponsorship programs within the organization, not just the department, but across the company. I serve as the executive sponsor for our sponsorship program across the corporate functions. And just this month, I'm really pleased. This is changing lives. We've just gotten our first acceptance as part of a returnship program. So somebody who is diverse and who left the practice, which happens frequently, is able to come back. And we have realistic expectations of they haven't been practicing recently, but we're confident we can find a good long-term home for them. So it's both at sort of very individual level, sort of at the micro level, and then more broadly at the macro level. I also say the organization is proud of its affiliations with this organization and other organizations like it, where I think we truly are not just talking about it, but truly moving the needle.
It's so exciting to hear you say that. I go to a lot of meetings, Josh, and people say we don't find enough Black and Latino attorneys. We don't find enough, JC. We try, but to hear that you actually do the work and try to make it happen, it's exciting to see that Booz Allen and you are out there actually trying to create a more diverse, not only legal profession, but attorneys working in business organizations, which is even more interesting, right?
Absolutely. And I look at my organization, and I'm proud of the representation of diversity on our board. I'm proud of the diversity across our leadership team. And I'm proud, as I look at it on a more micro basis, about at my individual department, the department I'm honored to be part of.
And I'm so happy that you view it that way. That's exactly how I really believe people should view it. This is great all around. Diversity matters, and supporting diversity driven organizations like CLEO and like many of the organizations you belong to matter, because we do important work, and bringing that diversity of thought matters. I remember when Justice Sotomayor was being considered for the Supreme Court. One of the things she says, I can think differently. I think like a Latina from the Bronx, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, but I understood what she meant, right? To be in that room and to bring that perspective is a wonderful thing, and our students are right now coming from all over the country, Josh, and they're getting ready to go to the Pre-Law Summer Institute. It's our flagship program, and this year it's in Minnesota. They spend 6 weeks learning to think like attorneys, write like attorneys, have attorney-like conversations, so that when that first day of law school happens, it's not new to them. So it's almost like a boot camp for first-year law students. And one of the things they tell me is, JC, I never met an attorney. I don't know them. I wanted to be one, but I never had one I could call, or someone that I can go to their office and see what they do. And diversity programs like ours are focused on providing an opportunity. There's so much conversations about outcomes and the like, but giving that equal opportunity, as you mentioned, is the right thing to do. So I'm so excited to hear you talk about that, Josh, especially someone from Booz Allen, which we know. One of the preeminent management consultant groups in the world.
I am very privileged to work for Booz Allen. It's treated me very, very well, and it's we're empowering people to change the world.
It's
incredible. And it's an organization that has a remarkable history. It's taken me a long time to really get to know it, and to get to know everything we do. But I'm just so proud of the organization. It's wonderful to be part of it.
I'm a big fan of the organization and all the work they do, not only in the business landscape, but in the issues that matter to people. The everyday advances that your organization helps with is just incredible. I'm so happy that you're here with us. I have to go right now to my favorite part of the podcast, which is the rapid fire round. Josh, I warned you about it. It's just quick. Just fire. It's going to be fun. I promise you that. The rapid fire, we're going to ask you 5 questions. We want short answers, but we want to have an opportunity for our viewers to get to know Josh. We know you as the big wig at Booz Allen, superstar, but we know you're a good regular guy, just like us, and we want to get to know you a little better. So, Android or iPhone, Josh?
iPhone.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's like I'm not getting any support, Josh. All right, what's your favorite social media platform?
I only use LinkedIn.
Interesting. Why?
I think I missed it generationally. Perhaps I was too busy when a lot of these programs were coming, these offerings were coming out. But I've always, first of all, I enjoy human interaction, and I've never wanted to post a lot about my personal life online. I think it's great when people do, but I've only used LinkedIn. It's the only social media platform.
All right, so make sure we'll go and follow you as soon as we go back on LinkedIn tonight. So what is your favorite movie? And tell me it's A Few Good Men. At least give me that. No? Okay, so what is it?
You know, it's a great movie. I'm not sure if it'd come to the top of the list. A way I would answer this is there are a couple movies that if they come on network television, I probably still watch them, even with the commercials. I've always been a fan of the Godfather series. I thought they were really well done.
But not 3. No way, Josh.
There were problems with 3. There were problems with 3.
Okay, I like that. I think you're a third guest who says Godfather, the trilogy, but 1 and 2 is always at the top.
Yep.
What's your favorite book?
It's too hard to answer a single book. I'm sorry. There were a number of books in high school I loved that probably still, come to the top. Catcher in the Rye is an example.
Yeah.
But it's not a single book, and it depends on what phase I'm in my life and what I'm looking for. Probably some books I've purchased at the supermarket I enjoyed at the beach.
We're just happy that you didn't say something Harvard Business Manual of some kind. Thank you for not saying some case study.
I got very fortunate to read some great books in high school, and many of those remain my favorites.
Right, Catcher in the Rye is like an all-star for our Gen X. For our generation, I think Catcher in the Rye is still
it made a big impact when I read it.
I couldn't agree more with you. Favorite vacation spot?
Well, first of all, it's got to be with my family. So, I mean, from there, I'm pretty flexible. We tend to go to the beach.
Okay.
That's what we do.
All right. And I got one last question. Which is your favorite restaurant in DC?
Wow.
You may upset some folks. That's okay.
I recently have really enjoyed Blue Duck.
All right. Blue Duck it is. Well, thank you for playing the rapid fire. See, it wasn't that bad, but we get to know that a little more of Josh. Thank you so much for playing that round with us. Thank you. So Josh, we're almost at the end of our time together at the CLEO Edge Podcast, and I wanted just to get some tips from you, some ideas from you as to the future and how you see the future for law students coming out of law school. What advice do you have for them, and what do you see as in the diversity landscape that you should think that you want us to be in alert?
Good question. I think lawyers today really need to understand technology, whether or not they're advising high tech or large companies. I think they still need to understand technology. Whether if you're involved in litigation, you're producing reams of documents, you need to know the technology. I would also encourage young lawyers not to specialize too quickly. I think there's a lot to learn. What you think you want to do when you're 25 may not be what you want to do when you're 45. So really try to, as much as possible, build agility and not specialize too quickly. If you're truly passionate about something, that's fine. I would also tell lawyers to embrace technology, not to be afraid of it. It's certainly going to be omnipresent. It is, and it's going to be an essential part of someone's practice. I think the same advice we probably received when we were younger, which is network, get to know people, ask questions, ask open-ended questions, ask people how they got to where they are, what was their journey. People like to talk about themselves. We're proud of what we've done. We can talk about some of the mistakes we've made. That's essential. And I am concerned about some of the things we're hearing today that are shocking, frankly, as it relates to views on diversity. I would say stay the course. We'll get this right. We get it right long term. I think there are some sort of outlier views today that are very loud, but I would encourage people not to be discouraged by that.
Words of wisdom from a very accomplished business person with a law degree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh, for joining us on the CLEO Edge Podcast.
Again, thank you.
It's been such a pleasure having you here with us today. And we can't wait to go out there and enjoy the first annual Spring Bloom. And I gotta thank our viewers for joining us tonight. As you know, I've been very excited about tonight's guest. Please follow Josh on LinkedIn and visit CLEOinc.org. Follow us on all the social media platforms. We're, as you know, at CLEO Scholars on Instagram, CLEO Scholars on Twitter, and CLEO Scholars on every single social media platform. But more importantly, make sure you press like and subscribe to the CLEO Edge Podcast. And you'll find us on all the platforms. We're on Spotify, Google, all of the Google platforms for podcasts as well. So thank you again for joining us at the CLEO Edge Podcast. Hope to see you soon.